Okay, looks like it's working better now. For some reason, I couldn't see everyone's comment. So maybe just again, double check that with this second one that everything's coming through okay. I've got Rachel, Ed, Kevin. Awesome. So we're getting some folks in. Great. Thanks for joining me. I'm going to go ahead and switch this over. Let's see. Let's get this started. Hi, Greg. Hi, Garrett from the Netherlands. Okay. It's a 3-ring circus doing this. But practice makes perfect, right? Something like that. So you should be able to also see the screen I'm sharing too. Hey, William from Bishop. Got some folks coming in. Kevin. Bobby from East Kentucky. Yeah, it looks like it's working. So far, so good. Great. So we got about 7 more minutes. If you have any questions you want to ask me on the front end, that's fine. I'll try to answer those. If you just want to say hi to each other or just kind of check in, let me know where you're coming from. That would be great too. And then we'll get started. I kind of outlined kind of what we'll be doing today previously with the announcement, but if you didn't catch that, the idea is I just want to share a few slides, photos. I haven't been able to go through all the videos yet. There's some crazy whitewater videos that we have too, but basically go through some photos of my trip down the Grand Canyon. That'll segue into an announcement I have about the Grand Canyon. And then I want to hopefully get your feedback or at least present to you some ideas I have on what I'll be doing this fall. And I'll go over that. I have a nice little map that'll kind of show you some of the places I'll be visiting this fall. But if there's places you think I might be able to hit that are in those regions, that would be great, since I don't know everything about every place. So much geology out there. And then we can do questions and answer, Q&A. So that's sort of the idea. Who else we got here? Christina from Denver, Susan from Moscow. Hopefully folks are staying well through this part of summer, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere anyway. Starting to cool off here in Southern Idaho. The edge of summer has slightly been broken. The nights are getting a little cooler. We started opening our windows at night, which is nice. And also, yeah, the days are still warm, but the nights are getting cooler and the days are getting a little shorter, the daylight hours. So you can tell fall's out there on the horizon. So great. We got Dan, Greg, who's heading west, Bob from Springfield, Stephanie from Great Yarmouth, the UK, someone from New Hampshire, William, welcome, Rob from Northeast Missouri, Sawtooth Red from the Owahis. Yeah, Georgia, I imagine it's still hot in some places. And it's still hot here. I mean, it's in the 90s, but the evenings and nights are definitely getting more pleasant here in Southern Idaho. Brian from Vancouver, Washington. Gary from Ocean Springs, Mississippi. If I missed you, I apologize. I'm trying to catch them all as they come in. Steve from Polsbo, Washington. I don't know where that is. I'll have to look at the map and see where that's at. Hello from Minnesota. Snowing here? Wow. Is that MN, Minnesota? Can't imagine it's snowing in Minnesota, but who knows? Portland, Oregon. Bruce from South Africa. Awesome. Gosh, so many places on my bucket list. Yeah, school's starting back up. For me, that's a little different this year. I'll explain that here in a bit. My fall semester looks a little different than it normally does. Ah, you were joking about the snow, Nigel. Very good. You got me. The Kitsap Peninsula. Dan, thanks for, yeah, I got more Grand Canyon videos coming if you like those. Um, it was a bit of a challenge because it was really a vacation with 8 other couples and my wife and I, but tried to figure out ways to kind of fit in those a little bit of video content for you good folks while we were down there. So I think I ended up with probably at least 7 videos, and there's a good chance I could throw together a lot of the slides and do some sort of compilation thing, like just later, like a PowerPoint presentation or something. But field videos, I think I've got 7, and you folks have seen 3 so far. So there's a couple more I've got on the docket that'll be coming in too. Michelle from Portlandia. Awesome. Kanab, Utah Mike. Yeah, near and dear to my heart, the state of Utah. Spent a lot of my life in that state and still do a lot of recreation there. Stephen and Houston, Tom from Houston says it's 103. And the humidity, right? So like, good luck with that. Stay cool today, Tom. Yeah, Westwater. I had plans to go to Westwater this fall with someone who knows it well and could help me get down the river, although I'd probably be fine on my own. But going with someone is nice when you're in a raft. And he actually got a Grand Canyon permit, so he had to bail on me. So that might not happen this fall. Mike from Boulder. David, thanks as always for jumping in the fray as well. So we're up to 56 people. That's great. We might get more, we might not. Either way, it works well for me. So yeah, a couple more minutes here and we'll get started. Let's see, anything else I can think of kind of on the docket? No, I think I got everything kind of lined out. So we'll just kind of see where this goes. As always, appreciate your viewership. I think I hear from enough people to let me know that I'm doing okay. This is really, I have no idea what I'm doing with this thing. Every video is sort of a learning experience and just me throwing geology and information at you. And so I appreciate your patience as I've tried to get these a little better over time. Devo Bronk, thanks for the kind words. Mike, yeah, Mike actually came up and met me, him and his wife from North Ogden, Utah. They were in town and stopped by, and pleasant couples. It was a pleasure to meet you both and sign your books. Hans from Pocatello, Bonneville Flood Path. Brian E. Oh, Portland will be in the hundreds next week. Yeah, I think it's supposed to get toasty early next week here as well, like maybe pushing 100. So, but I was just in the Grand Canyon. So, all things being equal, 100 does not sound so bad. I think the highest our little thermometer got when we were down there was like 112-ish or so. But it was tolerable because you're on the river. So it wasn't that bad at all. Yeah, I haven't shown anything from Glacier. I've never been to Glacier National Park. That's another place on the list. So anyway. Okay, so my clock says 2:00. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, thanks for joining me. There's 63 people here so far, which is great. And I know there'll be others that'll watch this later that maybe couldn't make it live. As always with these things, I'll go ahead and kind of present what I have. It's a little too much for me to go back and forth between presenting and watching the chat, which I do on my phone, which maybe isn't the best way to do it. But so I will, at the end, come back through the chat. If you have any specific questions for me, again, if you do them in all caps, or like Greg just did there, if you @ Shawn Willsey, something that'll catch my eye, that would be great so that I can be sure to catch those. And if for some reason I don't catch yours, just repeat the question with all caps and I'll just try to scroll through and catch it. So Okay, so here we are. And again, as if you saw the outline I have, I want to kind of start with my recent trip down the Grand Canyon, just show you a couple photos there. And then I have an announcement related to the Grand Canyon that I want to just put out to all my YouTube viewers. And then I want to show you some of my plans for this fall and maybe get some of your feedback. And then we can end with a little bit of Q&A as well. So as most of you know, I turned 50 this year. And in going into this year, I decided what I really wanted to do was do a Grand Canyon river trip. Now, I'm a rafter and I've taken lots of river trips on my own and with our little group of friends. But in thinking about the Grand Canyon, there were a couple obstacles. One was that the Grand Canyon permitting system makes it very tricky and hard. It's a lottery and your odds are really low. So the chances of me getting a Grand Canyon permit anytime soon were meager at best. And then two, in thinking about the size of some of those rapids and being down there for the first time, sight unseen, with maybe my kids in the boat and other people's kids, was pretty stressful for me. And so ultimately I decided that, shoot, I just want to get down there and see it and hike the side canyons and see the geology. And I don't really care how I get down there. And so when I was in grad school in Flagstaff at Northern Arizona, I actually hiked down Havasu Canyon with a buddy all the way to the river. And we got on a raft trip with another friend of mine who was doing research down there and rafted from that point at Havasu Canyon down to Diamond Creek. So I'd seen like the lower 25% of the canyon already, but I wanted to, I had my long list of things I wanted to see and do. So long story short is I put together a private charter trip with the good folks at Western River Expeditions. You can see some of our guides in the background there. There's our main guy, Ben. The gal on the left is Tori, no, Tori took the picture. This is Lou. And so we had 3 guides with us. And this is the crew I put together, just a bunch of friends here in Twin Falls, mostly couples and friends that we've known for a number of years. So this is the crew. This is us at Lee's Ferry, about to launch. And so we launched on the 26th of August, the Wednesday, so about a week and a half ago. This is the type of boat they take down the river. So it's called a J-rig. So it's basically a big pontoon, these pontoons lashed together. There's a motor at the back. The other trick with the Grand Canyon trip is that if you go by oar boat, which is what I have, like a raft that you just row on your own, the Grand Canyon is like 220 miles long. And on a good day, you might make 20, 25 miles in a day. So it takes a long time with an oar-powered boat to get through the canyon. And I think pie in the sky, utopian dream, I would have liked to have done like an 18-day, 3-week or whatever Grand Canyon trip, taking our time, stopping at lots of side canyons and seeing everything. But I knew that it would be tricky for most people, and maybe myself included, to pull away from family and work and commitments and life for that length of time. And so ultimately I decided this was the best way for our group to get down the canyon, was to do a motorized trip, which took 6 days. So this was a 6-day trip from Lee's Ferry down to near Whitmore Wash, which is mile 188. So you've done basically most of the Grand Canyon at that point, and you've run the big rapids. So we all fit on this boat. So there's Ben and Lou rigging our boat, getting some of the food into the cooler. So believe it or not, in this boat, which is like 37 feet long, you can fit 20 plus people. It's got multiple coolers, dry boxes, all the gear, cots, tables, you name it, it all kind of fits on there. So kind of cool. So that's the kind of boat we took down. And then again, this is not a comprehensive slideshow. I literally have, or we collectively, our group has hundreds and hundreds of photos. So I don't want this to be a laborious slideshow. I think I have 20 photos total here, just to give you a taste of it a little bit. But some of the sites and geologic highlights along the way. This is Vasey's Paradise on the left here. So this is a spring, groundwater, discharging directly from the bottom of the Redwall limestone. And so this is called Vasey's Paradise. So you get these beautiful waterfalls just literally coming out of these little pathways or little caves, if you will, out of the limestone. And then a little further down is this amazing place. And I have a video coming out on this location in the next week or so. This is Redwall Cavern. So this doesn't look like maybe that much, but you do get a sense of scale with the little people there. And so this is an enormous overhanging cliff. At one point, I don't know if it was a cave system. There weren't any cave features there, but possibly groundwater moving through this limestone, which is soluble, might have carved out a little bit here. Probably what's carved this out more than anything is its position on the river. There's a big bend. And so I think big floods along the Colorado River in the past have gouged out this cavern more than anything. But I do have a video coming out on this location. There's some fossils that I found in there as well. But just a tremendous place, and definitely a must-see bucket list destination on the Grand Canyon. So this is Redwall Cavern. Oh, there's the view from the back. So nice panoramic shot. This thing's just big, big sand. I mean, you literally could, it's probably not a football field, but you could probably put like 3 full-size volleyball courts and play beach volleyball in here. Great place to get out of the sun. It's protected, just gorgeous place. The Redwall limestone has lots of fossils in it. This is a Mississippian aged carbonate. So this rock formed at a time when northern Arizona was sitting close to the equator. It was warm and tropical. It was in shallow water. And right there by my toe is a nautiloid fossil. So these are related to squid. So this is the chambers of this nautiloid shell. And then, of course, at the end of this thing, you'd have like tentacles and the eyes and the mouth related to squids and octopus today. So some of the fossils that we found in some of the places there. You probably saw this video recently. This one just came out. This is the confluence with the Little Colorado River, which is this gorgeous Caribbean blue spring-fed waterway that's very warm. And this is all water that's highly concentrated in calcium carbonate. So the groundwater carries that calcium carbonate through the limestone as it dissolves out some of the limestone, and then it reprecipitates it once it gets out here on the surface. It starts evaporating a little bit and depositing or precipitating that mineral material onto these. It makes these ledges along the sides. It coats some of the rocks you might see there. There's some of the Tapete sandstone, the lowest Cambrian age unit in the background, and then going up the slope there is the Bright Angel shale, a softer Cambrian mud sized material, and then a little hint there of the Muav limestone showing up there. But you can see all that in the video that I showed. And yeah, just a gorgeous place for sure. So there's a Little Colorado River, and on the video, of course, I showed you the fun little float train we did there. I mean, everyone just had a great time. But again, the reason the Grand Canyon is interesting to me, and this is a bit of an aside, but it's important. A lot of people have been to the Grand Canyon, and if you stand at the Grand Canyon rim and look down on it, it's amazing. It's a spectacle. It's visually arresting. It's awesome. However, if that's the only experience you have with the Grand Canyon, in my opinion, you're incredibly short-sighted in how you've approached this. You have no sense, and not just you, any person, we have no sense of how big and the scale of the Grand Canyon is when you stand at the rim. It literally looks somewhat abstract. And so for me, the best way to engage and experience the Grand Canyon is to get down in it. Now, for a lot of people, that involves hiking down the trails, which is a great way to see it. In fact, it was like a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, we did a hike from the North Rim down to the river at Phantom Ranch, and then up to the South Rim in one day, what's called the Rim to Rim hike. And that was a fantastic way to see all the geology, all the units. But you're also, at least for me, it was a bit survival mode of just trying to make it all the way through it. So I only did, I think, 2 videos when I was down there because I was just trying to get through it. So by far, I think the penultimate way to experience the Grand Canyon is by the river, and by taking a boat down the river, where you can experience all these cool little side canyons, some of which you can't even really hike to. Some of the places down at the bottom literally are nearly inaccessible by foot. So anyway, disclaimer over there. So if you can get to the bottom of the Grand Canyon, by raft or boat on a trip, that would be the best way to see it. Another picture there looking back downstream, and here you can see the whole sequence from the Kaibab limestone up on the rim, down through the Torweep and the Coconino, the Hermit Shale, which forms that kind of reddish slope there. Then you get the Supai group, all these ledges of red here, the big Redwall limestone, the Muav, the Bright Angel Shale, and then the Tapete. So there's the whole Paleozoic section from about 260 million years ago at the top, all the way down to about 540 or so million years ago in the Cambrian, the full sequence of flat-lying sedimentary rocks in the Grand Canyon. So a view from the Little Colorado. I have a video that'll come out soon of this location. This is the Butte Fault. So this is Tapete sandstone, and this is a big drag fold along the Butte Fault. So you can, hopefully it's not the best picture, but I think I have another one here in a second. But here's the ledges and layers of Tapete sandstone on the right are more or less horizontal. And then you can see as you work your way to the left, they're incredibly folded, become these fins of rock along the skyline, and are oriented nearly to vertical, maybe 70, 80 degrees, right along this major structure. This fault is one of the reasons why the Grand Canyon has such depth to it, that we have such high relief from the rim of the canyon down to the bottom. So I think I have another picture. This is what it looks like from the river. This is sort of actually an offshoot of the Butte Fault called the Palisades Fault, but it's the same system. And here you can see the Docks Formation. So this is a Precambrian unit of the Grand Canyon supergroup, about 1.2, let's say, billion years old. These are sandstones and mudstones. There's ripple marks in here, kind of a coastal depositional setting. And these are juxtaposed against these lava flows, the Cardenas basalt, that's a little bit younger. And so the fault movement here, the most recent fault movement on the Butte Fault, is reverse motion, where these rocks have been pushed up relative to these. And this is the motion and the movement which occurred about 70 million years ago during the Cretaceous, part of the Laramide orogeny, if you know what that is, the same mountain building event that brought us the Rockies. This is what produced the big uplift of the Grand Canyon, the Kaibab Plateau, and elevated the north and south rims to the lofty heights they're at now, which is, around 8,000 feet. Further downstream, this video is already run as well, but in many places in the Grand Canyon, you can see the grade unconformity. So there's the contact there, right about my knee level, where you have the Vishnu schist, some of these basement rocks that are about 1.8 billion years old, and then a real sharp contact there, an unconformity, and then the sandstones of the Tapete sandstone, which are Cambrian in age, about 530 or so million years old, sitting right on top of them. So there I am, probably boring some of my friends with a little geology lesson. They knew what they were signing up for. They knew they were going to have a fun trip, but they were going to have to endure a few geology things along the way. So, but that's okay. Anyway, so there's that. This is a view a little further down of the Middle Granite Gorge. So here you can nicely see these dark metamorphic and igneous rocks, the basement rocks again, and the grade unconformity and the sharp contact there with the Tapete sandstone, and then going up the full Paleozoic section of flat-lying sedimentary rock. So again, the real cool takeaway for me is just the contrast between these dark rocks, which formed deep within a mountain range, like miles below the surface, and then you have these rocks that formed at the surface, maybe on a beach, maybe in shallow water, maybe in a river system, but just incredible contrast there. So this is heading down the Middle Granite Gorge. There's actually 3 of these inner gorges that are along the path of the Colorado River that have been exposed, partly by faulting, partly by, well, obviously the river's cut down, but there's some uplift in there that brings these old rocks back up in some places. Yeah, the Grand Canyon's just like, I mean, if there's a holy mecca site of geology, if we put a short list together, this is definitely on the list for no matter where you live, anywhere. So this is Deer Creek Falls. So this is just right, I mean, literally we're probably 100 yards from the boats. The river is very close. You can see this from the river. And this is an incredible waterfall. Again, spring fed, coming out of some of the limestone units up higher. Just above us there, the kind of overhang, that's Tapete sandstone. And then the lower unit here is the basement rocks, the Vishnu schist, the hard metamorphic rocks. And so the great unconformity is right up there, right about where the water, you can see the water coming out. This place was pretty incredible. I'll do a video of this. Probably, I didn't do a ton of geology here just because it was so loud and we were frolicking like kids too much. But I have some fun video of us trying to get close to this water. It literally drops from, I don't know how tall this is, maybe 60, 80 feet, 20, 25 meters, something like that. But it hits with such force that it's hard to get back in there and get actually directly under the waterfall. Pretty crazy. So this is Deer Creek Falls. Some of the other cool geology highlights along the way. These are some huge calcite crystals. There's my wife's hand for scale. This big cavity in the Redwall limestone where some of these big kind of dogtooth calcite crystals have reprecipitated and are lining this thing. So it's essentially just like a geode. You can actually see the lining of the mineral material around the outside there. And then on the right here, this was at Bedrock Rapid. We got out to scout it and look at it. And this was some of the beautiful, I should have put some scale in there, so I apologize, but this is a pegmatite. So there's big sections of quartz. The pink is potassium feldspar. And then these black things that look layered are actually books, or what we call sheets of mica. So this is muscovite or biotite mica in these little tight little sheets. And so these crystals are quite large, an inch or a few centimeters in size. So just an up close view of just a beautiful pegmatites. These are rocks that formed as magma was cooling slowly, and then might have either had some fluid mixed in with it or exceptionally slow cooling time that allowed the crystals to grow very large. So just really nice pegmatites. Just showing you some of the diversity of the rocks you see there. It's not all sandstones and shales and limestone. There's a lot of diversity with some of the detail there. This is one of our camps, just to give you kind of a view of camp life. This is at Olo Canyon. And so there's people just kind of sitting out, waiting for dinner. A couple of us, myself included, are playing this little game we like called washers, which is a little tray filled with sand. And you toss these little washers back and forth and try to score points. So great. Oh, thanks, Skagit Ed. Appreciate the donation for this. I'm glad you can enjoy this as well. This is Olo Canyon. We were very wary and had to make sure the weather looked good enough before we camped here, because obviously you get flash floods down these steep canyons. You can see the pour off here. There was a little manky pool of water on the backside of this here as well. So, but just kind of a typical view of camp life here on our trip. This should have been a very different picture, but it was actually kind of cool the way it worked out this way. This is the main stem of the Colorado here with the green water. And then this muddy water here should look like that beautiful blue water you saw at the Little Colorado River. This is Havasu Canyon and Havasu Creek. A lot of you probably have seen photos on Instagram or Facebook or otherwise of the beautiful travertine waterfalls and the beautiful blue water in Havasu Canyon. I feel lucky that I went there back in the 90s when it wasn't nearly as popular as it is now, just with social media and stuff. But really what we should be seeing here is this beautiful blue water instead of this orange soupy water. But they had just had the night before, apparently, some flash flooding. And so this is all sediment laden water, silty water coming down Havasu Creek, basically putting so much silt into the system that it is completely obscuring the natural blue water of that groundwater, the spring-fed water. And so we hiked up there a little ways, but we didn't go very far because one, the pretty blue water was not there, and that was kind of like the big attraction. And then two, because it had recently flash flooded, the flow of water was a little bit more intense, and at several places you actually have to cross the stream, like wade through the stream, and so the water flow was a little high, so we didn't spend a whole lot of time there. But this is Havasu Creek. another view with me there looking upstream. So these are actually travertine dams and terraces here down along river level. You can see here, this is the Muav limestone. So this is, and then the Redwall limestone is the big cliff in the background. But these are some of the limestone units that the groundwater permeates through, and then it redeposits that travertine. So very similar to the Little Colorado River, but a lot further downstream. I still thought it was really cool that we got to be there, when it was flooding, and kind of had this very different look to it, this kind of chocolatey look. So anyway, that's that. Most of the Grand Canyon is flat water. So I would say like 90% of our trip was flat water and little ripples, but there is some big rapids in there. So this is our crew on the big J-rig pontoon boat plunging into Lava Falls. Lava Falls is the biggest rapid in the Grand Canyon. It happens down at the western end of the Grand Canyon where, and I think I have a photo of this in a second I'll show you, where young volcanoes over the last few thousand years have poured lava into the Grand Canyon, at times completely dammed up the river. And so there's big rocks and other things, irregularities that are creating the rapids there. So this is everyone in the front of the raft. So there were choices in the raft. You didn't have to sit here. These people are all there by choice. You can see some people sitting on the bench here. And then there's even a little row of seats behind it. But for the adventurous folks who were sitting here, the instruction was on these big rapids and these big waves that they were told to suck rubber, which means that they need to lean forward so they don't get knocked off the boat. And then you can see they've all got a rope they hold on behind their back, and then another rope in front of them. And so these are the brave 9 folks that went barreling through this rapid. And there's the big hit they took. So now you can actually see that the front end of the boat has moved back towards you, the viewer. Maybe I'll go back one just so you can see. So there's like the normal situation. And then watch how close all these people's bodies, I guess, in the back row come to like the knees here of the people in the second row. So that was, it seems dramatic. This was the one big hit or big rapid that we encountered the whole way. There were some other big ones as well. Hermit was pretty big. There's a rating scale in the Grand Canyon from 1 to 10, and this is a 10. And then it's over. It's really like, it's 15 to 20 seconds of, not terror, but like adrenaline, and then it's totally over. So, but I'll try to put together, we have lots of videos of some of these rapids. And so I'll try to put something together at some point of a more comprehensive slideshow or presentation of the Grand Canyon. Maybe I'll do one just on the rapids and show you some of that footage. So, so because it was my birthday and this was the last night, the guides, unbeknownst to me, made a cake for me in the Dutch oven. And so this is what it said. And what was really cool, I have a picture of this somewhere too, is that when you cut open this chocolate cake, the inside, he had it kind of look like marbleized or like textured. So it's supposed to be like the Vishnu schist intruded by the Zoroaster granite. So I thought that was pretty cool. So anyway, old as schist, and happy to be that old. So yeah, and then at the end of the trip, we are helicoptered out. So a helicopter lands and flies us out over the North Rim. It's really like a 7 to 8 minute helicopter flight, but beautiful. We landed a little ranch, which is way south of St. George, Utah. We can shower there, get some lunch, and then they put us in little planes that fly us back to Lee's Ferry. And so that's sort of the gist of it there for the trip. So yeah, I'll try to put something together. In that photo, you can see some of the lavas here. So these black rocks just below the helicopter that have poured into the canyon. And then there's the sedimentary rocks above, the beige buff-colored units there. So all of that leads me to the big announcement. So I had chatted with the outfitter company, Western River Expeditions, and said, man, I would love to do more of these trips again. I've always loved the Grand Canyon. I want to spend as much time here as I can. So they have agreed to put together a geology themed Grand Canyon river trip with me. And so that'll be a 6-day trip, just like the one I did. It'll be in one boat, just like we had. And so the idea would be that everyone in the boat can hear me when I'm like maybe talking about things, people ask questions. The guides obviously know quite a bit about the geology as well. The nice thing about it being geology themed is we can specifically like make stops that we want to make versus just sort of the regular mundane, I guess not mundane, but like the regular tourist stops, that sort of thing. So I'm letting you guys know ahead of time. We just started this conversation and found out that most of their charter trips for 2024 have already been claimed. They only get so many per season. There's a chance I might get a 2024, but right now I'd say the best chance is that it would be a 2025 Grand Canyon 6-day trip. And so I'd love to see folks there if you can swing it. All the particular details will come out later. But it would be great to have some YouTube viewers there, some folks really interested in geology joining me and the guides and going down through the canyon. It really is a once in a lifetime, I think, experience. And, you know, while you could spend, this was kind of the tough sell to my friends too, is, you know, I said to them, hey, you know, let's do a Grand Canyon river trip. They're like, okay. And I said, well, here's how much it costs. And it was around, I think it was like 3,500, maybe it was a little more than that per person. And you can do a lot with that kind of money. You could go to Europe, you could travel a lot of places. But for me, and what I was able to sell them on, I mean, everyone that I asked to go on the trip went. I didn't have any one of those couples say, well, you know what, we'd rather do this, or gosh, you know, a Europe trip sounds better to us. Everyone, I think, saw the value in and the opportunity to go down the Grand Canyon and see all those things. So anyway, I guess I'm trying to be a bit of a salesperson here, but if you're interested, let me know. We're not booking people yet. We don't have dates yet. Just putting it on your radar for now. And I'd be great to see some of you folks. It'd be great to meet you and spend the better part of a week with you going down the Grand Canyon, learning and exploring and having that experience together. So it's going to happen, and hopefully some of you can be there as well. So, okay, Grand Canyon section over. So this fall, I am on sabbatical with the college that I work at. And so what that means is that I'm not teaching any of my classes as I normally would. And instead, what the college is seeing some value in is me going out and doing more geology videos, not just for all you good people in the public, but I also use these videos in some of my classes, especially my online classes. And I have a fairly new online geology class called Geology of National Parks. And I'm using these videos to help bring the national park geology in the real setting, if you will, from the field to the students using the YouTube videos as kind of a vehicle. So a lot of the videos you've been watching are also watched by some of my students, but then they have the extra perk of usually an assignment that goes with it. So it could be a quiz or something else. You know, they watch the video just like you might, but then they actually have something they need to do on the backside of that. And so in thinking about where I wanted to go, what I basically wanted to do was target areas and national parks that either A, I had not been to, or B, I had not done a video of, or C, both, I guess. And so preliminarily, this is sort of my plan so far. So I'm here in Twin Falls, there's the star. In about a week or so, I'm gonna head over to Central Oregon, go to Newberry Volcano, around Bend, Glass Buttes, Crater Lake, head down into the Northern California Cascades around Shasta, Lassen, Medicine Lake Volcano. I'll probably come out by Pyramid Lake and do a little bit there, and then hit the interstate and drive back. And so what you could help me out with is if there's specific locations that you think have a cool geology story to tell, or are different, or someplace that would be could make a compelling video, aside from like the big picture stuff that I probably already know about. If some of you obviously are like locals or know these areas well, that's where you could be helpful to me if you would like, because a lot of people would like to have certain areas focused on or showcased. in some of my videos. And so this is a way for you to help me make that a reality. So anyway, so there's August. September, I have 2 trips planned. One is going to be out to the Black Hills, which I've never been to. Along the way, a buddy and I are going to climb Devil's Tower in Wyoming. I'll probably do a stop at Fossil Butte. I'll probably do a stop around Casper. I just got a book about Casper Mountain that has some cool stuff. And then stuff around the Black Hills. So maybe Jewel Cave, stuff around Mount Rushmore. Maybe out to the Badlands. I haven't decided if I'm going to go out to the Badlands or not. I probably should. I mean, I'm right there, right? So that's in September. And then another trip in September, I think before that one, is over here to Dinosaur. This is an area I know really well. So I've been here several times. Dinosaur National Park, the Uintas, Sheep Creek Geologic Area, some of these places here along the Colorado Utah border. Then in October, I'm probably going to do a Great Basin National Park, Utah West Desert, little trip here. That's also another area I know well, Notch Peak, the Trilobite beds, so on and so forth. Then also in October, my wife's going to come with me on this one. She's never been to Yosemite, so we're going to do an Eastern Sierra and Yosemite trip, Mono Lake, Owens River Gorge. This area I've been to as well, so I know it pretty well, but definitely, do I know it all? Do I know all the little nooks and crannies? No. So if there's any, must see or cool things, and obviously I have to get there, right? So like this would involve a drive through Nevada. I do know about like Lunar Crater and some other places. So even if you're like, hey, you're not going to this spot, but I know it's on your way, that might be something I might be interested in. And then as the season turns, I'll be heading south because it'll be getting chillier, and I'll do a trip down to southeastern California, another place I know well because I used to live in Blythe, California. If you know where that is, pretty rough. Salton Sea, San Andreas Fault, Mecca Hills, stuff in the Mojave. Bunch of places in here that I've been to before, but there might be some new places I'm not familiar with. Amboy Crater. There's a place south of Blythe called Gargoyle Canyon that I think was a really cool spot. I used to do field trips there. So that's the plan for November. Anyway, so that's the idea. So those are some of the locations you might see videos coming soon. I'll probably still patch in a few Idaho ones in here. I'm not sure how this is all going to work because obviously I'll go out to these places for a week or so, do a bunch of filming. I'll have some time when I get back to put some videos together, but I also have to get ready for the next trip. So I don't know, the videos might be coming out just as frequently as they always have been, like 2 or 3 per week. They might slow down a little bit. But by the end of the fall, I should have a pretty good backlog of videos to keep us all entertained through the early part of winter anyway. So that's the plan for the fall. And I know a lot of you live in other parts of the country, back east, others of you are in different countries, not even on the continent. And boy, oh boy, like those are all, I mean, if it could just be a traveling lifestyle, right? I'm not to the point, and I don't expect to get to the point where I'm quitting my day job and just, flying around the world and filming geology videos. But maybe that'll be the retirement plan. I don't know. We'll have to see how this all goes. But for now, I just enjoy doing what I'm doing. I still like being in the class with students, and I like this being a side thing that benefits both my students and you, the viewer, and the general public. So anyway, that's that for that part. So let me go back through the chat here and see if there are any questions. Thanks for hanging with me through all that, though. Hopefully that was helpful. I'm imagining as I scroll, I'm going to go back to the beginning. So I'm imagining some of this might be Grand Canyon type questions first. So I'm just looking for the caps. I'm going to assume that everything else is you good folks talking to each other. Let's see here. Oh yeah, Greg says hit the thumbs up. Yeah, all the stuff you guys do is always helpful. I don't always try to push that too much, but all the likes and shares and stuff. I gave up trying to figure out the YouTube algorithms, and yeah, I've just given up on all that. But anyway, Let's see. Do you think a flood or ancient lake waterfalls created the canyon? Yeah, so there's some, I wouldn't say controversy. There are various hypotheses about exactly how the Grand Canyon formed. What's interesting is that geologists have been studying the Grand Canyon for well over 100 years. And while we've figured out a lot of things, we still don't have a detailed sequence, step by step, of the carving of the Grand Canyon and how that all came to be. And so there definitely are some lake bed deposits in Northeast Arizona, the Bitahoche Formation. And I think a lot of people, and I think what's happening is just, and this happens in science a lot of times too, is we've got several ideas, models, hypotheses that are all sort of being pushed together to make one big model. And so there's good evidence that the Grand Canyon, like here, if you look to the Northeast at Marble Canyon, for example. So we launched, let me throw the labels and stuff and roads back on here. We launched right here near Lee's Ferry. You go underneath the bridge here at Marble Canyon. But notice that these tributaries to the Colorado River, notice how they enter the canyon at an interesting angle. Most times tributaries join a river this way. It means it's flowing in that direction. So in this case, what I'm saying here is that the river, if you just look at the way these things are oriented, the river should be flowing in this direction. But the river actually flows in the opposite direction to the southwest. And so this is one piece of evidence, and there's others, that the upper part of the Colorado River, at least this portion, was a river that was flowing to the northeast. And there's good evidence for that. And if you go back to the Cretaceous, there was a big inland seaway over that part of the western US. And so it would make sense that you had water flowing into that low place out there. And then at the same time, you'd start developing, well, actually move forward a little bit in time. The basin and range starts opening up, dropping the land down, and that creates a low area. And so you have headward erosion moving back up this way that eventually captures maybe those lakes. So anyway, yeah, I think it's a combination. I think we'll eventually figure it out with more detail. Right now, I see all these ideas are kind of converging on that kind of story where you have so you can't think of the Colorado River and the Grand Canyon as one entity, but segment it into different parts, and you might have different stories going on in different parts here. So good question, Trevor. Let's see. Yeah, so Nibiru asked sort of the same thing. Yeah, there's no, the Grand Canyon was not created by a flood. While flash floods are prevalent throughout the Grand Canyon, there's not like one massive flood, despite what some of the people who comment would have to say about that. Okay, moving on. Let's see, looking for more. Oh, thank you, Wendy, for your generous donation. And also thank you, Mike, along with Skagit Ed. Appreciate that. Let's see. Looking for caps here, folks. What is your favorite theory for the cause of the great unconformity? That's a good one, David. Well, I think the thing that I didn't do well on my video on the great unconformity, which was in Blacktail Canyon, which is somewhere in here, I can't remember where it was, is I didn't talk about that. I didn't actually explain like, well, what was happening during this interval of time. I just sort of tried to blow people away with like, look, these rocks are 1.8 billion years. These rocks are 500 million years. And right here, you can touch 1.3 billion years of time. That's cool, right? I think that was something that most people would find interesting. What I failed to mention, and I wasn't trying to keep it from anyone, it wasn't duplicitous, it was that there are rocks in the Grand Canyon that fill in part of that gap. So the Grand Canyon supergroup is a sequence of mostly sedimentary rocks that were deposited about 1.1 to 7 billion to 740 million years ago that fill in part of that gap. In terms of just the great unconformity in general, there is some thought that it coincides pretty well with snowball Earth. and that maybe if there was this global worldwide glaciation event, that erosive action of those glaciers is what caused that big unconformity. So there is that idea. I guess, David, to answer your question more directly, I don't have a favorite theory. I'm like a lot of people, I'm just kind of like watching the evidence and the ideas come in and looking at them, and yeah, and then trying to make sense of it all, I suppose, or so we can kind of figure it out. Brian, do I need an uninvited stranger to run into in the Eastern Sierra? I would not be opposed to that. I'll be on kind of a tight schedule, and I'm not sure like where I'll be yet each day. I kind of just have like an outline as I go into each one of those areas. So now we're transitioning from the Grand Canyon to just like places that I'm going on some of these trips. So like, for example, Eastern Sierras, I'll be, I have an outline of like, okay, maybe I want to hit this place, then this place, and that place, but I don't know exactly where I'll be when it gets dark. When it gets dark and I'm done and tired for the day, I just find a place to camp. Since my wife's coming on this trip, I did book 2 nights at like a condo just outside Yosemite, just because it's early October, could be squirrely weather-wise. We'll have been camping a couple days, and just for both of us, I thought this might be nice just to spend a couple nights in a building. But yeah, get in touch with me and let me know what you're thinking, and that'd be great if you or someone else could meet up with me or whatever. Greg, do I know Myron Cook? Yeah, so yeah, I've seen Myron Cook's YouTube channel. He does a great job. We both went to NAU, so we went to the same grad school. He preceded me by a few years, so we didn't overlap in Flagstaff, so we didn't know each other then. But we swapped emails a bit. He's up in what little town is he in? I think it's called Worland. He's out here in I think this is the Powder River Basin. Yeah, I think he's somewhere up in here. Yeah, he does a great job. His videos are much more polished than mine are. They're probably more detailed. And he does a great job with them. So they're longer. I think we're just doing things differently and in our own way. So he's got his niche and his style. I've got mine. And if it works for both of you, if it works for you that you can watch us both and learn, then that's great. So yeah, so I know him. Yeah, but we haven't met. That'd be nice if we could meet sometime. David, do you have a geology mentor you'd like to recognize? What makes a good mentor? Gosh, well, I think for a lot of geologists who go through the academia system, you think immediately of some of your professors that were influential. So my graduate advisor down in Flagstaff, who passed away just about a year and a half or so ago, maybe almost 2 years ago, Paul Umhofer, which some of you might know from Nick's programs, gets mentioned because he had a role to play in some of the Baja BC research. He had a big impact on me. And then previous to him, when I was at Weber State University in Ogden, Utah, I had a professor from Wyoming, Adolf Yankee, who got me really excited about structural geology. I thought I wanted to be a volcanologist. I went to Oregon State and University of Oregon before my senior year, visited their grad programs, talked to the advisors I was going to work with and do volcanic research. And then I went into my senior year and took more structural geology classes and just fell in love with that aspect of geology. So he was very influential, and I think he's still there. He's an amazing person. He's just one of those people that he knows a lot about everything. He can whip out complex math equations and program a computer. And he was just really, really a big mentor to me. So probably those two, Yankee and Paul Umhofer, were the biggest ones. Do I have a video on the Oakley Stone in Oakley? I do have a video on Oakley Stone. This is Misty, and Misty, thank you for your donation. The video I did on Oakley Stone was not in the town of Oakley, though. It was further south. Where was I at? It's the same day I did some City Rocks videos. I think I drove this road past the border into Utah, and somewhere near the Goose Creek Mountains, I did something in here. Shoot, I can't remember exactly where it was, but I'm sure the GPS location's on there. So, Misty, yeah, if you just go to the playlist, I guess it might be, it's probably under Southern Idaho videos, even though it technically wasn't in Southern Idaho. You might be able to find it there. Okay, let's see what else. I think I caught up with the question. So if your question was not in all caps or I missed it somehow, maybe throw it in there at the bottom and I can address it. Sorry, it's not good live streaming to sit there and try to read everyone's back and forth chat while I'm trying to kind of host the show, so to speak. So I apologize for that, but I am kind of quickly scrolling back through and make sure I didn't miss anything. You guys are probably entertaining yourselves as well as anything. Yeah, and then maybe, so I'd love to get some more feedback. I guess if you have any places along the way, like someone I see here, how about Central Nevada? So, some of this is my ignorance, right? Like if I don't know an area well, then I don't know what I'm missing and I don't know what I could be looking at and doing videos on. So even getting ready for this next trip in a week or so out to Central Oregon and down into Northern California, I mean, I can show you the stack of papers that I'm like going through and reading to try to learn about these places. So I definitely don't want to come across as like, the know-it-all. So in most of the cases, I have to read it and understand it in order to present it. Now, you really could plot me down probably just about anywhere, and I could tell you basic geology, but I think the context is important. So if I'm looking at a lava flow, a natural question would be, well, how old is the lava flow and where did it come from and what was the nature of the eruption? And those are things I won't necessarily innately know. And so that's why I'm doing some of that research. And also it's helping me find some places that might have got overlooked. I mean, just for this first little venture into Central Oregon, I've already found, looking through some publications and papers, a couple places that I think are going to be awesome and make great videos that I had no idea existed literally like a week ago. And so that might be true for Central Nevada. I've driven through Central Nevada. I think Nevada is awesome. I think it has the most named mountain ranges of any state, maybe outside of Alaska. Like all these individual mountain ranges in the basin and range are their own unique little have their own little unique geologic histories, rock types. Some are volcanic, some are sedimentary, some are metamorphic. Just it runs the gamut. So yeah, that's where I'd be interested in knowing if there's a specific location that I might visit. So yeah, hopefully that's kind of helpful. Off-road overlords, thank you. Thanks for the donation, much appreciated. Yeah, I mean, these take time to put together, right? What do I do in my spare time? I go climbing, I go rafting, and I go look at rocks. So adding these videos to what I already do in my free time isn't that hard. But it does take time to kind of put them together. Some of you might have noticed I've like upped my editing skills from 0 to like maybe 1. Like my wife made me the little intro. I add the little Google Earth fly through thing so you can kind of know where it's at location wise and get the context, adding any little bit of text on the videos. So slowly but surely I'm trying to add some of those things. And so those things take time. So anytime people can help out with that, that's always appreciated. Yeah, Mike, my trip to Casper. Are you the one that asked me about Casper Mountain? If you are, I have a field guide that explains some of the things around Casper. And so I'm planning to drive up a Casper Mountain. I'm also planning to visit this area near Alcova because I've seen some cool things there. So yeah, and it's kind of on the way to Devil's Tower. So Yeah. So I haven't, because that trip's kind of like a little further away, I haven't done the deep dive yet. Right now, my deep dive is on Oregon and Northern California because I'll be there in a little over a week. And so I want to make sure I can be efficient with my time, hit all the places I want to, and see all those things. So, yeah, so hopefully that helps a little bit. Railroad Valley, Nevada, odd super producing oil wells. Okay, I don't know anything about Railroad Valley, Nevada, so I can look that up now. Yeah, Steens Mountain. The trick is like some of this stuff's close enough to me that I can get there. You know, I don't need a sabbatical and weeks off from my job to get there. And so that's why I'm probably going a little further. Someplace like Steens Mountain, I can probably go do that, you know, like on a full big long day or a weekend kind of thing. So some places I might not get to. What is the weirdest lava flow in Idaho and why is it weird? Weirdest lava flow. I think the weirdest thing I've seen at a lava flow in Idaho, and I did a video on this, so maybe you've seen it, maybe not. This is for David Newton. Is it King's Bowl? So at King's Bowl, I don't want to make this too long, but King's Bowl is, I don't know why my Google Earth is looking kind of grainy. Oh, there we go. That's a little better. So King's Bowl is this fissure eruption right here. And on the west side of this eruption are these crazy mushroom-shaped toadstools caused by rocks being thrown out of this big pit here when this eruption became explosive. These big blocks fell onto this lava lake, which was cooled over on the surface, but still molten beneath. And then the lava oozed out of these holes, these big squeeze ups that are these crazy mushroom shapes. That's just a really memorable place among all these lava flows in southern Idaho that I've been to. So, so I'll go with that one, David, for now. Really good question, though. That was fun. Yeah, well, I'll be providing references after the upcoming videos. Oh boy. Like the Grand Canyon ones. This is from Coognet. I guess if you can be more clear on exactly what you're talking about there, like the references I might have used in doing my research, or if that's what you're referring to, that would be good to know. Yeah, Jaggers 4x4. I'm gonna skirt the Randall Carlson thing. I watched his video on the Bonneville flood and I saw a lot of holes in it. And so I think that guy spins just enough science to sound compelling, but mainly promotes kind of crazy conspiracy theories. That's just me though. So anyway, does gold mining call to you? Not really. Like in terms of like placer gold, panning for gold, sluicing, that sort of thing. No, I guess I'm more interested in, like, I'm not a rock hound. I think that the finished product is pretty to look at and it's neat to look at crystals and things like that, but I'm much more interested in the processes, the landscape, the story than I am looking for specific geologic resources. But I think it's great that other people are. So yeah. Let's see, Brian, if you're heading to Shasta, may I suggest yeah, Medicine Lake Volcano. Yep, and the lava beds. Those are definitely on my list. I'm hitting those for sure. So Brian E., if you know some really awesome road cuts, locations, something that might not be obvious there, that would be great. Off-road overlords. Thoughts on upheaval dome west of Moab, collapse, salt, impact. I oh boy, I read something on that not that long ago, and now my mind's drawing a blank, so I apologize. I think it wasn't it confirmed that it was an impact site? What didn't they find I mean, smoking guns for some of these impact sites would be shocked quartz, these microtectites, things like that. And the area he's talking about is down here, right there, Canyonlands. Thought about maybe trying to get down there with that September trip too. I'll have to see. I do have plans for a meteorite impact video in Idaho that many people probably haven't even heard of. That's pretty awesome, I think. So Jordan Craters, haven't been there. That's another place I can get to. Hi, Jack. That's pretty close. I feel like I can get there, you know, with a day or a weekend or something like that. References to read after your sabbatical videos could be what you use for planning. Yeah, I can definitely do that. Yeah, I can definitely put together a list because some of these are really helpful. I mean, I can give you guys the clue right now. So here's how it all works, team. This is full disclosure, keeping it 100. So let's say I'm going to, I don't know. Oh, here's a good example. I'm going to go to Pyramid Lake. Okay, I've been there once. I you know, but I didn't look at the rocks. I think I was with my dad. You know, it was just kind of a drive-by thing. I know a little bit about Pyramid Lake, Lake Lahontan, big, you know, ice age lake like Lake Bonneville. There's tufa deposits around it, that sort of thing. So what I do when I'm looking to go to a place, I literally just get on Google and I type the location and also type in geologic field guide. And there are literally all sorts of published, hopefully you guys can see this, field guides by the USGS, state geologic surveys, other places. So here I'm holding up one for Geologic Field Guide to Medicine Lake Volcano, Northern California, including Lava Beds National Monument. So literally it's a field guide where it gives you the mileage, the GPS. It says, yeah, drive 22.6 miles to here, park, go up here, look at this. This is what you're seeing. So a lot of what I do is using these publications, reading through them, finding stuff that I think might be of interest either to me or to you, the viewer, and then going there and seeing if I think it makes a good video. So I can definitely do that, Kugnit, but you're also welcome to, if you see a video and you want more information, like ask me what references I use, I can get those to you. I don't know if I'm going to start putting all the references on all the videos like at the end or something, but yeah. Jim Sadler, how good of a 4x4 will you be traveling with? I just got a brand new truck. So I'm in a Toyota Tacoma 4x4. So I should be pretty good to go. That being said, most of these trips, I've got to kind of keep it moving. So do I have like all day to drive up some heinous, gnarly road? Not necessarily. I got to kind of keep moving a little bit, but yeah. Yeah, anyway, very cool. So I think I've caught up to everything here. Yeah, if there's any last minute questions, let me know. We're about an hour into it, which might be long for some folks, might not be long enough, excuse me, for others. But happy to answer any questions. Yeah, yeah, you're welcome, Kugnit. Hopefully that's helpful, but that's a good way to get information. The other thing that's helpful too, I want to do a video at some point on geologic maps and how to read them and how to find them, no matter where you live, at least in the US. I don't know how applicable that would be broadly, but a lot of the sleuthing and research I do on the front end is stuff you all could be doing on your own as you're having your own adventures and wondering about places you're traveling to or whatever. So it's no great mystery, and I'm happy to share my secrets of the trade. And many of you are well versed enough in geology through Nick or just your own study or whatever that you could probably read most of these publications and understand most of them. Some of them are quite technical. There's some that I read sometimes and I'm like, oh boy, like I gotta go over this again. But for the most part, you can, like, you know, understand the lingo. If you have the basics down, I think you'd benefit from it. So yeah, geologic maps are complicated, but I think I can present it in a way that makes them a little bit more easy to digest. So I've got some ideas there. So beyond just some of the fall travel things, I've got a list somewhere in here about video ideas and places nearby or places not so nearby. Other, like maybe some more of the little lecture videos, which have been pretty popular. I think a Grand Canyon one would be kind of fun. I think, what else have I got on my list here? I've got a fun one. I think it'll be both a lecture and some field videos on the Western Snake River Plain, because I think there's some interesting things about the smile of Southern Idaho and why it exists. Yeah, just some different ideas there. So hopefully that's helpful. Let me look one more time. Yeah, the Black Hills of South Dakota, that's a big uplift from the Laramide. It's the furthest east uplift. So it's basically the same event that's forming the Rockies. It's just a little bit further east. And it's basically a big double plunging anticline. It's basically a big fold. So the rocks in the middle, think of it like a bullseye. The around the edge of the Black Hills are the younger rocks. And as you work towards the center, the rocks get older. And so most of the rocks in the middle are that granite, the Harney Peak granite, like that you see at Mount Rushmore. And those are all Precambrian, aged, very old granitic rocks. So awesome. Yeah, thanks for all of your comments here. I'll be sure to go through those more carefully here in a bit and make sure I read those. And if I need to get back to you or something, I'll let you know. So if you have any last minute thoughts or questions or comments, throw those in now. Yeah, Western Snake River Plain, David, I've got a good idea. I think there's a cool story there I wanna share. So yeah, and it's obviously Idaho centric because that's where I am. That's what I know best, and B, it's what's close. If I could just snap my fingers and zip over to Scotland and do a quick video and zip back, I would. We do have I don't think we have any plans to travel abroad. Well, next spring we're going to Europe, but sort of like cities like Vienna and Prague, that my wife is excited for. I don't know how much geology is in that area, so I should probably look into that. So if you have any cool sites in the Czech Republic or near Vienna, let me know. But looking at it on Google Earth, it does not look very rocky, but you never know. There's probably outcrops there, right? Somewhere. So yeah, and we'll see what next year brings in terms of other locations and such. So okay, I've probably taken enough of your time. So thanks so much, everyone. Appreciate you being with me and joining me today for this live stream. We'll do these, I don't know if we'll do them once a month, but maybe once every 2 months or something, just when I feel like there's some announcements or something to share beyond just the normal videos that I put together. I'll put these out there. So, but I appreciate all your support, your viewership. Please continue to share with others, and we can grow this community into a bunch of people who love geology and rocks. And have a great weekend. Stay cool, stay safe, and best wishes. Thanks so much.